Israeli forces remain in control of the Gaza side of the Rafah crossing, but have not attempted to advance so far. The Rafah cross remains closed to humanitarian aid, but the Kerem Shalom crossing has reopened only days after 4 soldiers were killed by a Hamas rocket strike nearby. ILTV's Steve Leibovitz reports.
Defense Minister Gallant was with troops in a staging area for the Rafah operation and said Israel will continue the operation in the southern Gaza city until Hamas forces in the area are destroyed or hands over even one Israeli hostages it still holds. His meaning, the Rafah operation will continue moving forward unless there is a hostage for truce deal with Hamas.
הוריתי אתמול לצה"ל להיכנס אל מרחב רפיח, לתפוס את המעבר ולבצע את משימותיו. הפעולה הזאת תימשך עד אשר נחסל את חמאס במרחב רפיח ובמרחב הרצועה כולה, או עד אשר יחזור החטוף הראשון. אנחנו מוכנים לפשרות על מנת להביא חטופים. אבל אם לא תהיה את האפשרות הזאת, נלך ונעמיק את הפעולה. זה יקרה בכל רחבי הרצועה. בדרומה, במרכזה ובצפונה, אנחנו יודעים שחמאס מבין רק כוח.
IDF forces seized the main border crossing between Egypt and southern Gaza yesterday, shutting down a vital aid route into the Palestinian enclave. In the short term, Israel is trying to raise the pressure on Hamas to agree to the deal to free Israeli hostages held captive since October 7th. The army provided this update.
I want to give you an update on the situation in Rafah. Yesterday, the IDF called on Gazan residents and international organizations in eastern Rafah to temporarily evacuate and move a few miles away to the expanded humanitarian area in El Mawasi. There, we have coordinated an increase in field hospitals, tents, and quantities of food, water, and medicine. The quick movement of civilians away from areas that were under Hamas's control enabled us to advance. Last night, IDF ground troops began a precise, intelligence-based counterterrorism operation in limited areas in eastern Rafah, an operation against Hamas terrorists and infrastructure there. The troops are operating in a specific defined area where residents have already been evacuated.
With Rafah crossing closed, Israel today reopened the Kerem Shalom crossing only days after it was shuttered following a deadly Hamas rocket attack. The move was made after the White House said that Prime Minister Netanyahu had promised President Biden during a call Monday that he would reopen the Kerem Shalom crossing. 4 soldiers were killed and 10 wounded in the rocket strike from Gaza on an IDF staging ground adjacent to Kerem Shalom. Meanwhile, the U.S. is reportedly holding up several Boeing-made arms shipments to Israel for at least 2 weeks. This would be the first time since the outbreak of the Israel-Hamas war that the U.S. has held up a weapons shipment for the IDF, which it's been supplying on a near-constant basis since October 7th. An unnamed official reportedly said that the Biden administration held up the shipment of 2,500-pound bombs that it feared Israel might use in its ground operation in the densely populated Rafah. Washington strongly opposes a major offensive in Rafah, arguing that it cannot be done while ensuring the safety of the over 1 million Palestinians sheltering there.
Israel Bonds, the heartbeat of solidarity, the powerhouse of support. When the Hamas-Israel war hit, Israel Bonds stood tall, proving we're more than just an investment, we're a lifeline. Investing in Israel Bonds isn't just a financial move, it's a declaration for resilience, strength, and a better future for Israel. Join us and let solidarity echo through generations.
And in a tragic turn of events, Kibbutz Nir Yitzchak and the Hostages and Missing Families Forum announced on Tuesday evening that Lior Udayev, who was presumed to be a hostage in Gaza these past 7 months, was murdered on October 7th and his body kidnapped by Hamas terrorists. 61-year-old Udayev was Argentinian at heart and was an avid cyclist. He dedicated his life to helping others. He was a member of the emergency preparedness team at the kibbutz where he lived and was an ambulance driver for 40 years. He leaves behind his wife of 38 years, Yafa, along with 4 children and 3 grandchildren. His widow Yafa expressed her sorrow in a Facebook post saying, "We miss your energy. We miss the family gatherings because nothing is the same without you. My beloved, hold on. We never lose hope for a moment and will continue to fight until you return home." And in some positive news, 85-year-old hostage Elma Avraham, who was returned to Israel in critical condition in the first hostage deal after 50 days in captivity, was finally released from the hospital after slowly being nursed back to health. We wish her continued health. A bit of good news today. And moving on, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the latest hostage deal proposal from Hamas was intended to sabotage Israel's planned operation in Rafah. Hamas now says that if the Rafah operation continues, there will be no hostage deal. ILTV's Steve Leibovitz has the story.
Prime Minister Netanyahu says that Hamas did not and will not agree to release Israeli hostages until more pressure is placed with the entry of IDF forces into Rafah.
הצעת החמאס אתמול נועדה לטרפד את כניסת כוחותינו לרפיח. זה לא קרה. כפי שקבע קבינט המלחמה פה אחד, הצעת החמאס רחוקה מאוד מהדרישות ההכרחיות של ישראל. ישראל לא תאפשר לחמאס להחזיר את שלטון הרשע שלו ברצועה. ישראל לא תאפשר לו לשקם את יכולותיו הצבאיות כדי להמשיך לחתור להשמדתנו. ישראל לא יכולה לקבל הצעה שמסכנת את ביטחון אזרחינו ואת עתיד מדינתנו.
The U.S. confirmed that Hamas did not accept the terms presented by mediators and blamed the misunderstanding on misreporting.
Hamas did not accept the ceasefire proposal. Hamas responded, and in their response made several suggestions. It's not the same as accepting. The statement that was issued yesterday that was widely reported, and I'll blame the reporting because it's what the statement said, is not an accurate reflection of what happened. They responded as people do in a negotiation process, but it was not an acceptance.
Despite the apparent deception, the War Cabinet agreed to send a low-level Israeli delegation to Cairo to continue hostage deal talks and see if it was possible to meet Israel's demands.
הנחיתי את דרכי העבודה שיצאו לקהיר. תמשיכו לעמוד בתוקף על התנאים שדרושים לשחרור חטופינו. תמשיכו לעמוד בתוקף על הדרישות החיוניות להבטחת ביטחון ישראל.
A Hamas official in Beirut warned that if Israel's military operation continues in Rafah, there will be no ceasefire deal.
إذا استمر العدوان فلن يكون هناك وقف إطلاق نار لأن الإسرائيلي هو الذي يهاجم وهو الذي يطلق النار ومن الطبيعي أن ترد المقاومة على هذا العدوان وأن ترد دفاعاً وأن ترد من أجل دحر الاحتلال.
CIA Director William Burns is in Israel today for talks about the Cairo mediation and the Rafah operation.
And joining us now to discuss the latest in the operation in Rafah and a potential hostage deal on day 215 of the war in Gaza is Brigadier General in the Reserves Amir Avivi, founder and CEO of the Israel Defense and Security Forum. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
So the United States has said this is a limited operation in Rafah, while Israel is saying it will not stop until Hamas is defeated. So what is the IDF's current mission in Rafah?
Well, at the moment, what was done was indeed limited. We took the Rafah crossing. It's not a very complicated mission to do, but we have to understand that in order to win decisively, Israel must conquer all of Rafah, all of it. Without that, we cannot reach the leadership of Hamas. Without that, we cannot reach all the hostages who are inside Rafah. And without that, we cannot destroy all the tunnels and the underground infrastructure that is connecting between Egypt and Gaza. So this is our only option. This is what will bring victory. This is the decisive move we need to do. And if we don't do it, we're risking all the goals of war. All the goals of war depend on a massive ground incursion into the Gaza Strip.
Mm-hmm. And you know, the United States has confirmed that it's withholding shipments from Israel, over the Rafah operation. How serious is this move, and will it have any effect on the IDF's actions?
We are experiencing unprecedented pressure, and it's risking, it might risk Israel existentially. And I think the political system, the cabinet, must unite stand strong and say to the US, we appreciate your friendship and everything you did for us, but we are not going to lose this war. We are going to Rafah and we're going to win decisively, and we expect our American friends to stand with Israel and help us win this really historical war.
And is that essentially the significance of the United States withholding, ammo from Israel, that this could cost Israel the war?
Yes, because when the US is saying we don't support the Israel going into Rafah, it's basically saying lose the war. This is what the meaning is, and Israel needs to explain that, needs to say it clearly. You are telling us to lose the war. It's not going to happen. We're not going to lose. Now we can manage without these munitions for a while. We have enough to go to Rafah. We have enough to fight in the north. But obviously, we need the US to stand, continue to support us, continue to supply the munitions we need. And I believe firmly that if we do what we need to do and go inside and destroy Hamas, the pressure will stop. The pressure is now, as long as we are not going in. Once we'll decide and we'll do it, when we'll destroy Hamas and bring the hostages, then the pressure will stop.
And, negotiations are still ongoing for a hostage deal. How would a deal now impact the war? Israel has said that its two goals are the defeat of Hamas and also to, of course, bring the hostages home. But is it possible now to achieve both?
Yes, it is. And I think that the only way to create a situation when there is an interest on the Hamas side to release hostages is an existential threat to Hamas. If we don't go in, if we don't really endanger existentially death, Sinwar, and all this leadership, then they won't be motivated to release hostages. We need to go in. These are really terrible sadists that really want to hurt the Israeli society and the families of the hostages. And the only thing that will change their mind is military pressure. And we saw for 3 months we're talking to them, nothing is happening. 3 months the hostages are in their hands, and we're not doing what we need to do to release them. And this is military pressure on Hamas.
Brigadier General in the Reserves, Amir Avivi, always a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Ida.
Experience the power of truth with ILTV News. If you're looking for quality content and captivating visuals, join our news community and become an integral part of our team as we embark on a mission to unveil the real Israel, dismantling the web of lies and misinformation that surround reporting on Israel. By subscribing to ILTV News, you will not only have access to the latest updates, but you will also amplify our message, creating a ripple effect that carries the truth far and wide. Subscribe today and help reshape the narrative. Available on the web, Android, and Apple. And U.S. President Joe Biden and congressional leaders joined Holocaust survivors at the Holocaust Memorial Museum's annual remembrance ceremony on Capitol Hill Tuesday. Biden vowed to confront anti-Semitism and continue his ironclad support for Israel, even when there are differences of opinion. ILTV's Steve Leibovitz has more.
U.S. President Joe Biden and congressional leaders joined Holocaust survivors at the Holocaust Memorial Museum's annual remembrance ceremony on Capitol Hill. President Biden was greeted with a standing ovation in sharp contrast to the scores of pro-Palestinian protesters who have become a fixture at the president's events. The event was held on the 7th-month anniversary of the Hamas massacre, and the president made the connection.
This hatred continues to lie deep in the hearts of too many people in the world, and it requires our continued vigilance and outspokenness. That hatred was brought to life on October 7th in 2023. On the sacred Jewish holiday, the terrorist group Hamas unleashed the deadliest day of the Jewish people since the Holocaust. Now, here we are, not 75 years later, but just 7.5 months later, and people are already forgetting. They're already forgetting that Hamas unleashed this terror. It was Hamas that brutalized Israelis. It was Hamas who took and continues to hold hostages. I have not forgotten, nor have you, and we will not forget.
Biden had this to say to the anti-Israel and anti-Semitic protesters.
I understand people have strong beliefs and deep convictions about the world. In America, we respect and protect the fundamental right to free speech, to debate and disagree, to protest peacefully, and make our voices heard. I understand that's America, but there is no place on any campus in America, any place in America, for anti-Semitism or hate speech or threats of violence of any kind.
Biden vowed that his administration will continue to actively combat the plague of anti-Semitism.
My administration, with our second gentleman's leadership, has launched our nation's first national strategy to counter anti-Semitism that's mobilizing the full force of the federal government to protect Jewish communities. But we know this is not the work of government alone or Jews alone. That's why I'm calling on all Americans to stand united against anti-Semitism and hate in all its forms.
And the wave of anti-Israel protest worldwide continues. From the U.S. to Europe and beyond, universities are struggling to contend with the growing violence and demands. ILTV's Ariel Elhiani has the story.
In a wave of solidarity with Palestinians in Gaza, student-led pro-Palestine protests have swept through universities across the world, sparking clashes with authorities and amplifying calls for divestment from companies with ties to Israel. At the University of Chicago, tensions flared as police dismantled a pro-Palestinian encampment, leading to confrontations with demonstrators. Similar scenes unfolded in Berlin, where police cleared a protest camp at the Free University of Berlin, responding to a call by the Student Coalition Berlin to occupy German universities. In Madrid, university students erected tents on campus in support of Gaza, joining a global movement that began at Columbia University in New York.
Como estudiantes hemos pensado que hace falta manifestarse, que hace falta seguir el camino que está llevando a cabo todo el movimiento estudiantil en todo el mundo, que empezaron en Colombia, en Estados Unidos, pero que están yendo a un montón de países y nos parecía una responsabilidad ponernos aquí con nuestras tiendas y a manifestarnos.
Demonstrations also erupted in France, with protesters at Sciences Po University in Paris demanding the severance of ties with Israel.
Ça fait plusieurs mois qu'on se mobilise pour la Palestine, pour un cessez-le-feu à Gaza, pour la paix, pour la cohésion, et que face à ça, l'administration ne nous entend pas, ne nous écoute pas. On a des demandes qui sont très claires, l'arrêt des partenariats, ou en tout cas un comité de travail sur les partenariats qui aboutira ensuite à un arrêt des partenariats avec les universités et les entreprises qui sont partenaires d'Israël. On demande aussi à ce que Sciences Po reconnaisse clairement le génocide qui a lieu aujourd'hui à Gaza, en Palestine.
The outrage extended to Amsterdam, where clashes broke out as police dispersed protesters at the University of Amsterdam, detaining scores of demonstrators. Footage even surfaced of pro-Palestinian protesters violently hitting Jewish students with sticks, while passers-by stood and watched. These rallies highlight a concerning trend of escalating international opposition to Israel's war against Hamas, marked by students advocating for a ceasefire and urging their institutions to sever ties with Israeli-linked entities. The demonstrations reflect a concerted effort to draw attention to the humanitarian situation and compel universities to oppose Israeli military presence in Gaza, all the while failing to acknowledge the October 7th attacks or any single of the 132 hostages still held in Gaza.
And after 7 months of the war in Gaza, Israel now facing a dilemma. Agreed to a ceasefire deal under less than ideal terms to release the hostages or forge ahead in its military operation in Rafah to eliminate Hamas. What do Israelis think of this dilemma? Find out in the following report.
Israelis remain torn between a moral duty and a burning desire to bring the hostages home, and the concern that without a Rafah operation, Hamas will continue to remain in power and endanger more Israeli lives.
About the deal, I don't trust Hamas at all. They are cheating us. They are lying to us. and we cannot trust them. The proof is that what they did up to now, the only solution is to conquer Rafah, and then maybe we hope, we pray, the hostages will come back to us healthy and completely.
So I think the government should complete the deal in order to be able to get back the hostages. I understand that it's necessary to defeat Hamas, but I think that can wait, and the hostages cannot wait. Every second they are there poses immediate danger to their lives, and we need to get them back as soon as possible.
Yet a new survey released Tuesday by the Israeli Democracy Institute's Viterbi Center for Public Opinion found Israelis to be divided on the issue. A clear majority of the Jewish public, 56%, agreed that the deal to release the hostages should be the top priority for Israel, while 37% believe that the military action in Rafah should be the top priority. Among Arab Israelis, the vast majority, 88.5%, prioritize a deal to release the hostages. Meanwhile, a Channel 13 poll Tuesday night found that 44% of Israeli public believes Israel should not accept the ceasefire deal proposed by Hamas, while 41% believe Israel should. The same poll also found that 44% believe Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is not interested in a hostage deal, and when asked what is more important to the Prime Minister, 56% of Israelis believe his political survival is more important to him than the release of the hostages.
My heart is torn because I really do believe that Hamas does not represent the Palestinian people, and they pose an ongoing threat to Israel, and that is very important to me that Hamas is removed as the leadership in Gaza. But at the same time, the lives of the hostages is incredibly important to me and paramount importance, and any agreement that we can reach that results in the hostages being released, my heart is obviously drawn to that agreement.
And now, on a brighter note, ILTV's Rachel Safdie is in Sarona Market to report on one of the initiatives to rebuild communities in southern Israel. Let's take a look.
One of the communities most affected by Hamas's war on Israel is Netiv HaSara. The small community in the south of Israel was attacked by Hamas terrorists on October 7th, and 20 members of the community were murdered. Many more were injured. I'm here today in Sarona Market in Tel Aviv, where members of Netiv HaSara have opened a coffee shop where all proceeds go to the rebuilding of the community. Let's check it out. I spoke with Yotam, who previously worked in security at the Erez crossing, lost 2 family members on October 7th, and is now a manager at the cafe.
Cafe Otef is Cafe Otef in Sarona Park, selling coffee and pastries. We have a shop that's selling a lot of kind of products from Gaza Strip. If it's like, can be books or paints, it can be cookies, a lot of kind of things that all of them, it's to help people from Gaza Strip that stop working the same day, and we help them to sell here things. A community place to sit and meet new people, come and ask us questions about the October 7, about our Moshav. People from all around the country come here just to support us, so it's very exciting.
The cafe sells products from coffee to ceramics and tote bags, all made from people in the Gaza envelope. Ziv, a 21-year-old barista, has endured the loss of many loved ones in the war. For him, the opportunity to contribute to his community's recovery is the most rewarding aspect of his job.
Hi guys, I'm Ziv. I work here in the Cafe Otef. I'm a barista here, and I come every day from the Otef to work here and rebuild our community.
This coffee shop and the people running it are a beacon of hope in the aftermath of tragedy. As their motto goes, may we thrive again.
May we thrive again, a beautiful initiative. And now, let's take a look at the weather forecast. Clear skies are expected tonight around most of the country, with temperatures reaching lows of around 12 degrees Celsius or 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow, mostly clear skies are expected, with temperatures set to reach highs of 27 degrees Celsius or 81 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's all for today's news. For more updates from Israel on all your devices, check out our ILTV channel, subscribe to our ILTV newsletter, and don't forget to check out our new and improved website, iltv.tv, with all the latest news from the heart of the State of Israel. I'm Ladar Gavelazi. Be well, stay safe, and thank you so much for watching.